that. That's great. Okay, everybody, we'll jump in. Welcome. I know Anna's said that a couple of times. We just thank you so much for being part of this call today. We all know time is precious, so really appreciate you being with us. Let's go ahead and begin, and we have a lot to cover. And so a fire hose may be a word that you have floating in your head as we kind of move through this, but we'll jump in. We'll move as quickly as we can. There's a lot here, but I do want to cover a few housekeeping items, which we want to make sure you know and understand. One, we are recording this, as you just seen. We will send this out after our session today. There will be a PDF version of the PowerPoints and presentations that will be covered today that will come out. And we just really encourage you to use chat, as there's a lot of information that comes in. We'll be monitoring that. Anna will be helping me with that. And we certainly want to field those questions, give them back to our partners and those we have a relationship with, make sure those questions are answered. And those which that are not, we're committed to getting back to you with answers on those questions as well. So let me quickly set the stage. As most of you know, we were founded by Cindy Olson, and I know, as Anna said, she wishes she could be here. I know she wishes you all the best and happy holidays. But ESA, came together mid-2020, and with Anna and myself joining Cindy on this exciting journey. At our core, which most of you know, right, we continue to bring in and will continue to bring in to our community thought leaders who are influencing and shaping the future of work that comes in different forms, right? I mean, it's briefings, it's roundtables, it's forums. And we've also piloted, which I think most of you know, in early 2021, a work tech startup advisor offering where we bring to our community and execs mid to late stage startups, helping them through feedback and understanding their value proposition, and really exposing our executives maybe to new solutions that they want to bring into their organizations, but also where needed or where appropriate to potential advisor or board roles for startups. Through this feedback we've received from our community, even through our relationship with Deloitte and their board readiness program, we have found really strong interest in helping our executives position themselves for board opportunities, whether that be public, private, or startups. And to that end, starting in January 2022, we will be offering a board positioning membership, providing a curated portfolio of services which we believe will strengthen your knowledge of what really is involved in being on a board, and increase the probability that you would be able to land a board seat. So with that, a lot of words, right? So let me go to our next slide. Here, and I won't go through all this, but it's a summary of what is underneath ESA's board positioning membership. And where we've got bold with private directors, Overton, Coruzant, they will be presenting today to talk about all the services and value that they bring. But just want to kind of show you in summary, and I'm going to show it to you again at the end, because I know some people will show up late, what this is all about and what's part of this membership piece. So with that, I'll go to the next slide, which is really our agenda for today. So what's this all about? And what we're doing is, as soon as I'm done talking, I'm going to turn it over to Bud Barrow and actually Michael Dubois, who will be driving some of the PowerPoint. But Bud is the current president of PDA. Also Overton Venture Capital, we have Carrie Miller and Michael Nogan, both managing partners for Overton Venture Capital. Then we have Coruzant Technologies, Brian Thomas, who's the CEO for that, and he will address the branding side. And if I didn't mention Overton, we'll talk more about startups. We do have time for Q&A, hopefully, and then I'll have my closing remarks today. It's going to move quickly. I'm giving 10 minutes for each presentation, so I'll be the bad guy here. And if the PowerPoints were to go, or presentations were to go shorter, We'll certainly incorporate any questions that we're fielding from chat if we can. So anyway, with that, I will turn it over to Bud and stop sharing my screen. Bud, you're up.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
It's great to see all of you, depending on where you are this morning, this afternoon. We've had great conversations with Cindy, John, and Anna. Really value the relationship historically now and looking forward to it in the future. John mentioned Michael Dubois. He's a very capable member of our business development team. He and his colleagues really do all the work. And I'm actually the chief executive officer, not president. So Michael, to the next slide. So who are we? We are a national organization. We're actually a 501. We're a nonprofit based in Chicago, founded 7 years ago by 20 people. We are now 2,800 members nationwide. We focus on private companies exclusively, the importance of governance and generating private company value. And that means working with current or past board members, board chairs, senior executives, CEOs, and owners, and advisors to all three of those groups of private companies. As I think I may have said, we were at 500 members when I joined and was co-president of one chapter 3 years ago. We're now at 2,800 members. We have 22 locations around the U.S., coast to coast. We've added 3 recently in Metro DC, Arizona, Colorado, and are looking to potentially expand that map further into 2022. We do consider ourselves a go-to source for private governance information, and that's where 100% of our focus is. Next slide. Our mission, as I sort of alluded to before, is to enhance private company value through basically good governance practices, which means boards that are well-functioning. We also are very firm advocates for the value of diverse and inclusive boards. We believe that our organization, the companies we work with, need to look like their communities, their stakeholders, both demographically and from a skill standpoint. We advocate and teach major subjects involving board formation and governance. I'll talk about education in a moment. And we also are really trying to create a national ecosystem of all the folks I mentioned before, directors, owners, senior executives, to allow them to share best practices, to network, and also share potential opportunities for being on a board, either an advisory board or a governing board. Next slide. So I talked about the 22 chapters. Here are the locations, the ones that are established, as well as the ones that are new. And I think that the 2 indications of where it says planning stages, those are now official chapters in Arizona and Colorado. Next slide. So a little snapshot about who our members are. We set almost 3/4 have been or are C-suite executives of some kind of company, public or private. More than half are former or current directors or advisory board members of privately or family-owned businesses, and about half of those have been members of or are members of audit, compensation, governance committees of the board, key committees of the board. And almost half have had substantial experience or are having substantial experience working outside the US or managing a business that has substantial non-US operations. And then the bottom left-hand corner is just a reiteration of that growth trajectory that I talked about. Next slide. So in terms of benefits to what you get with your membership, it includes education, a director training and mentorship program, which is really, we had our first launch very successful in the fall. We're gonna have another winter semester. The mentoring is a very key component with very experienced directors. Between March 2020 and March 2021, we had more than 85 webinars. We pivoted very quickly when the pandemic began. We still are holding those, but having more in-person activities, as well as podcasts and videos. I mentioned the national network of our members sharing best practices across the 22 chapter system. They do that through in-person meetings. They also do it virtually and hybrid. So you can be in New York and join a program that's taking place in Southern California. Board opportunities. We have a platform internally that allows people to look at postings from companies about board positions. We've got an alliance with an organization called Bolster, which also has a platform involving fast growth companies. And we're looking at one or two other alliances with platforms as well to give our members opportunities for board positions. We have a monthly newsletter that talks about governance best practices. We have access to a great online library that has in it set history archives and current issues of 7,500 business publications. Any subject you can think of, there's going to be an article or more than one on the subject in the archives. And we also offer annual subscriptions to two magazines, Directors and Boards and Private Company Director Magazine. They are, the value of those subscriptions is almost the same as the membership. Next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about our corporate membership program. This is something we have introduced only in the last few months. The first off is if you are a company member, you give the opportunity to your members to complete the certificate in private company governance program with no charge. Also, the corporate membership entitles the company to have as many as 10 members with PDA at a discount. We also have complimentary access to a new program we just developed. It's on ESOP governance essentials. Some of you may know ESOPs are a growing segment of the business community as well as the governance community. And unlike some other private company boards, family-owned company boards, there are some regulatory requirements with respect to boards. And so we've got a committee internally that focuses on ESOPs, as well as that course that we just developed. It's quite popular. We also, I mentioned that on the director side, I mentioned that companies post with us positions and people can apply through members can apply through the website on those postings. But we also offer companies an enhanced posting process that gives them the ability to at least filter through applications for some key attributes. Very fundamental. There's no judgment being made, but it does kind of reduce the 200 or 300 applications that those companies get for a number of these positions. They can be advisory, they can be governance. They're very diverse in terms of industry, geographic location. That is a valuable attribute. We also offer some preparation on ransomware and response. It's part of our larger complex of cybersecurity. We were focused on that topic before, like others, it became well known in the news. We have two national committees that focus on cyber with some really excellent folks. And they provide a lot of support for our initiatives as well as being part of our internal networks. We have CISO on call, which is another attribute of being a corporate member. And on the right-hand side, you see a sampling of companies, private companies that are full board members. And in the 2 minutes I've got left, I want to go back to the board opportunities discussion I said earlier. We emphasize to folks that if they join, they should not expect that they're automatically going to receive a board seat in 6 months. It's a journey. We help you on that journey by trying to let you know where you are, working on a board-ready resume, give you some basics of board governance and skill development through the certificate program, which includes mentoring. And then, of course, this excellent ecosystem of networking. My predecessor as CEO said the last 5 board positions he had was through networking. So we really emphasize that, which is why we really like to attract the members that I was talking about. So I think I'm just under a minute under my allotted time. So thank you. Hopefully we'll have time for some questions later.
Yeah, thank you, Bud. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we'll save time for Q&A. Let's pivot now to Overton Venture Capital, and I'll turn it over to you, Carrie.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Nice to see y'all again, and nice to see new faces. My business partner's having some technical difficulties, so until he joins, I'll take the realms. So let me just share my screen. Give me a second. Can y'all see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So again, Carrie Miller from Overton Venture Capital. I thought it'd be helpful to kind of just start off. I'm going to share more about kind of what the offering is at the end of the presentation, but thought kind of to get you excited to share high level on why we're really excited about this ESA Overton VC partnership. So for us, kind of, this is an opportunity really, and the background, to take a step back, the background of this is Jeff Wald, who's actively very involved with ESA, is one of our operating partners at Overton. And as kind of I got to know Anna and John and Cindy, we saw that there was tremendous opportunity to bring Overton's operating partner model to the ESA network. And so the benefits of this partnership is it's an opportunity for you to serve as a subject matter expert in helping Overton in our due diligence process for new portfolio companies that might come into our portfolio. It's a great opportunity for you to serve as a mentor and an advisor and a sounding board to help early stage companies. It's also a great opportunity to really advise companies that are aligned with your passions and interests. Whereas in venture capital, and I'll give you kind of in the next slides an overview of venture capital and who Overton is. This is also just a great opportunity to give back and to mentor early stage founders and entrepreneurs. And then another benefit as well for this group is Overton sees, we looked at over 1,000 companies every year, and we are looking at new products and services that might be great strategic partners and could benefit your companies. So really giving you access to seeing what's coming up in the early stage world. And then finally, I'd say for our operating partners, one of the benefits that we also see for y'all is being part of kind of this partnership is a great way for you to learn about venture capital and to get exposed into an area that you might not have been exposed to. So let's jump in. So what is venture capital? So at the end of the day, venture capital is a form of private equity that finances investments for early stage companies that we believe are in a high growth trajectory. And so kind of high level, wanted to put a chart just to kind of explain to you and to show you where venture capital comes into play. And so if an entrepreneur has an idea and they recognize they have an idea, they don't have the product or service yet, they have an idea, they think it's a brilliant idea, and they've decided that they need to raise outside capital in order to invest in that idea. That's really at that point, you might have heard of angel rounds of investing. And at that point, most institutions don't invest at that idea conception. There are incubators and accelerators and select venture capital funds that will invest in that idea. Where we at Overton get interested is at what's called the seed round. And that's normally the first check that early stage companies will get funded from institutions like Overton. And where we're specifically looking for is, you know, they have an idea. Most likely the idea has already been put into the market. And so the product or service has already started to show some traction. That's normally where a company, a fund like Overton that is seed focused starts to think about deploying capital and investing. We will go a little earlier if we really think it fits into the sweet spot of our fund, which I'll get into in a minute. But I wanted to kind of share with you where in the private investments Overton specifically looks to invest. So ideally, the product or service is already on the market. They're already starting to show traction. And that's when we as a fund will make our first investment. And then the second investment, we reserve half of our fund for the Series A round, which is when they're at the point where they're raising additional capital, they're continuing to grow. By then, maybe they're already at $1 million in ARR, which is annual recurring revenue, and they're really starting to scale in a meaningful way. And then on this chart, you'll see there's kind of after Series A, it goes on to different rounds of financing from Series B, Series C, Series D, all the way to the exit, which today there are many opportunities for exits, whether it's, historically it might have been a public markets event, IPO, but today, with SPACs, reverse mergers, and strategic partnerships, there's many paths to that exit. So let's jump in, and then I'll kind of show you the framing of where Overton specifically gets involved after our investment, and also where it might be an interesting opportunity to join us. So about Overton. So at Overton, our kind of underlying thesis is we're obsessed with consumer behavior, and the idea that the way that the consumer purchases and explores products has continuously been disrupted. Before COVID, we were really focused on the industries of consumer, which is marketplaces. If you think of Uber or eBay, the way that we discover products and services has been disrupted over the last many years through marketplaces and e-commerce. So consumer is one of our kind of focus areas. Also, changing consumer behavior is also employers and the way that they're looking to attract top talent, employees. So, and the products and services that you as CHROs and CIOs are thinking about, recruiting and engaging and motivating your employees. That's a change in consumer behavior over the last many years. And then we're also focused on consumer health, and then digital. And digital could mean media and content, but it also could mean what's going on, as you know, with the metaverse or digital assets. So kind of the walk away for you to take home is we're obsessed with consumer behavior. That's across business to consumer, and then also business to business, which back to the employer is also looking for the products and services that lean into their employees as the consumer. And then kind of for Overton, where we really kind of differentiate ourselves in this, venture capital landscape, is we are active investors. So not only are we looking to deploy capital to the companies that we're investing in, we come to the table looking to bring our expertise. And we today have our own 25 operating partners that help us in looking when we're doing due diligence on a portfolio company. They help us in areas that are outside of where my business partner and my expertise are. And I'll get into that on the next slide. But we leverage them to help us on when we're conducting due diligence. How do we look under the hood? I'm not personally an expert in supply chain or technology. However, we have the former CTO of Goldman Sachs, who is an expert. And so we really kind of leverage them to help us when we're evaluating new opportunities. And then today we have 14 companies in our portfolio. We leverage this bench on different projects because every startup needs help in a different way. And because these are really lean organizations, when we invest, they might have 3 employees and they are scaling. And so they might not have hired that expert in marketing or technology. And they could use an hour, once a month to just have a sounding board. And that's also where we really leverage our operating partner bench and where we see this opportunity with ESA. So jumping in, I've already talked about kind of where our industry and functional focuses are. So a little bit about me and my business partner, Michael. I'm sorry he was going to join, but had some technical difficulties today. So my background, actually similar to many of you, is talent strategy. I started my career in management consulting and finance, and I ended up going back to business school at Columbia to focus on organizational psychology. I got really fascinated by, in management consulting, my publicly traded clients. I started my career in 2001 when my first clients were New York Stock Exchange and Tyco. And these were companies that were cleaning up after the aftermath of some bad practices around incentives. And I ended up going back to business school to focus on organizational psychology, which my lens as an investor is always looking at the team. I would say that the make or break of any early stage investment is how is this team building out their kind of, these entrepreneurs building out their team, identifying the fourth, fifth, sixth hire, and then also building a culture that can scale as they grow. And then my business partner, Michael Nogan, he's a true operator. He successfully launched a retail business, Theality, that exited to Zappos. And then he went on to be head of strategy at The Gap and 1-800-Flowers. So Michael's background is go-to-market strategy. You have a product or service, how do you get it to the marketplace? So Michael and myself, that's really where we lean in to help our portfolio companies. And then, like I said, we have this bench of 25 operating partners that come from these companies that are functional and industry experts that we tap into for various areas that we and our portfolio companies could use assistance. This is a list of our kind of current 14 portfolio companies. Really proud that 60% of our companies are diversity led. It's something that, we know how important, everyone here knows how important it is. And it's something that we take a lot of pride on when we're making investments. And then kind of, I don't know how I am with time, John, but I'll quickly just, like I said, if I could take the next 2 minutes, high level, we're really excited about this partnership. We've been meeting and discussing it for months now, and just to see it finally come to fruition. What this role will be is giving you kind of access to be an operating partner at Overton and some of the roles and responsibilities around it. However, it's offering you even more flexibility because each of you has different time that you can commit. And so we really split it up to find out, where are you most interested in participating? Maybe it's for that pre-investment due diligence advisor. Maybe it's helping as an advisor to our portfolio companies. Many of these companies might not have a formal board yet. And so they're looking for unofficial mentors and advisors for, at the moment when their board launches, this would be a great pipeline opportunity to actually formally join their board. And then also with any early stage company, there's opportunities to advise for equity and other relationships with these companies based on your background. And then, like I already said, with the benefits, this is a great opportunity. A lot of our operating partners, through helping us with due diligence, get to see products and services that might be great for your companies. It's also, I think, the number one reason that our operating partners were excited to participate was to learn about venture capital and the due diligence process for evaluating early stage companies. The network that you'll get from kind of being part of this is also a tremendous benefit, to be able to network with others that maybe are outside of your field. And then longer term, we are not marketing and fundraising right now, but we're having tremendous success with our first fund. We will launch a second fund next year. And with all of Overton's operating partners, we have reduced management fees and other interesting things that make it a potential financial opportunity for you to participate as well. So that's kind of like high level. I know I talk fast. I hope you heard what I was saying. I'm always happy to follow up offline to discuss more about what we're doing. And if you can't tell by my energy, I'm just really excited to be partnering with ESA and look forward to meeting y'all.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. Appreciate your energy for sure. And we'll just keep moving along. We'll come back to questions, as I've said a few times. So I'll turn it over to Brian at Coruzant. Thanks again, Carrie.
All right. Well, good morning or afternoon, depending where you're at. I appreciate everybody being on the call today. So let's kick this off to make sure I don't get any little, he's got this virtual cattle prod that John uses on me when I talk too much. So I appreciate it. No, I'm kidding.
Carrie, I think you might have to stop sharing your screen first.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Carrie.
Okay, and we are sharing. Now, if you can't see my screen, just, well, you probably can't now. Are you seeing the wrong slides?
I think you need to go to picture mode.
apologize here that I've got my screens probably flipped back. Do you see the presenter screen, or do you see the audience screen?
Well, I think we're seeing the presenter screen, I think.
Okay, good. Okay. You're not seeing, okay.
We're
Good,
seeing
good.
slide
We're
1
seeing
and
two
slide
slides.
2. We're seeing 2 slides.
Okay, let me change that. How's that?
Oh, that's better. Now we don't see your notes. We can't read ahead.
Darn it.
That's
Okay.
perfect.
All right. Well, I just lost I lost a minute there, so I apologize. But hey, we're moving on. So again, good afternoon. Brian Thomas here. I'm really your chief brand builder today. I'm the founder and chief technology officer for Coruzant Technologies. So with that, let's get you moving here. Kind of covered that a little bit, but I want to just tell you a quick story about me and what I did and how I kind of landed where I am today. The short story is I went from zero to hero in the branding business. I was a chief information officer, and I was at a medium-sized company looking to really grow my career into something bigger, maybe move into a Fortune 500 team or something beyond that. And so I didn't know where to start. And so I just jumped in, rolled up my sleeves, and I started looking at what some of the influencers out there. And again, whether you're an influencer or you're an industry expert, I was looking to learn about that and jump in. So I did a lot of homework, and I can tell you that branding is important. I was a nobody considered in the branding world or considered in the social media world that we all live by today. And it's kind of it's a double-edged sword, of course. But what I want to share with you today is this was a journey. It's not a destination. It's something that you got to continue to work at. But I can tell you, you can reap a lot of great benefits out of it. And then, of course, I'll share my final thoughts. And like always, I like to give a little surprise or bonus to those people that joined today. All right. Again, I was a chief information officer. I spent a lot of years in healthcare, especially, and it was just a struggle. I started out in the trenches, worked my way up into the executive world, and found again that you hit that ceiling, right? And where do you go next? And so I was doing everything I could do to get exposure. I started getting networking with folks, started trying to apply to board seats, and I was not getting anywhere. So again, diving in, I went and started really finding mentors and connecting with influencers that have had some pretty good success out there as far as being on a board, being an influencer, being a speaker at large organizations, or being an executive on a large Fortune 100 company. So to get that edge, again, I had to do a lot of homework. I didn't know anything I had no marketing background. Again, my background was in technology and healthcare. I didn't know where to start. So again, I just did a lot of searching online, did a lot of research, reaching out to some of these influencers, and trial and error, and some of it I had to mimic what they were doing, but with trial and error, I was able to start to see some moderate success early on. And so what I did, again, is after about a year or so of some work and networking and so forth, and I can share some of those things offline, but I was joining organizations, I was volunteering, I was speaking at events, and little by little, I went from about 300 social followers to about 70 social followers during this time. And I know it sounds like, wow, that's awesome, but it did take some work. But now that I know the industry and know how to personally brand, it makes a lot of sense. And that's why I'm sharing my story with you today. Just a couple of the highlights of the things that I've done. I've been featured on some pretty big podcasts with some top influencers, but also I started getting featured in some top magazines. And I'm going to share that screen with you here. It all started when I was named number 43 on a global list of the top technology officers in the world. Again, I was invited to many of these magazines that you see here. There are others that are not listed. I became an influencer in the technology sector pretty quickly. And then shortly thereafter, I would say about a year later, I found out, I kind of stumbled upon it, but I had also become an influencer in the public relations and the journalism sectors. And there's a whole nother story behind that one. But again, it's because I got out there, I really just took a leap of faith and said, you know what, I'm going to get out there and try to brand myself. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but the good thing now is I know all those secrets, and I can help folks with that. But some of the other side benefits that came along with it is I was invited to be on advisory boards and other paid advisory committees where it was actually pretty lucrative at the time. So branding is so important, especially in today's world. Obviously, the world has become more connected. We are a global economy now. It's really a gig economy as well. And to even get out there and try to get seated on a board or be part of an executive team for a large company like a Fortune 500, you have to compete at that 70 percentile or higher. People are currently competing for your job. And you may think, gosh, I'm young. Yeah, I'm 30, whatever. No, there's people that are movers and shakers that are your age, are younger than you, that are competing for your job today. And so branding is really the key. You can network all you want, and that helps, but branding is key to get that exposure so you can land on that board seat. So real quick, the importance of branding is personal branding is crucial for your career growth, your advancement, to be a paid advisory or be on a board seat. Building your personal brand obviously gives you some credibility when communicating with your clients, employees, and others in your industry and outside your industry. And of course, which happened to me, is you will consistently come up on people's radar. You will get, I can tell you right now, I can't accept any more connections on LinkedIn. I'm sure some of you have that problem, but it's because of this branding. You'll be found in a heartbeat by 10 people a day. That's how this works, but it does take some work, and I can help with your brand if that's what you're looking to do. And remember, you can brand while you're working for somebody else because it is your brand. You just need to make sure, depending on what company you're with and the marketing department. But remember, the positive branding that you're doing is also helping your employer as well. And that's the message that at one of my employers, I had to get that point across, because they didn't like me doing things out there because they thought I was representing the company. And I really wasn't directly, but I see where they're coming from. But I explained to them the positive benefits that they would receive from me doing my branding on my own. So we talked about this early on. It's a journey. It's not a destination, and that's truly the case with anything in life, right? But because of this this partnership I'm working with ESA, what I'd like to talk to you about here in a minute on my next slide, but this exposure that I got and the experience is I went ahead and launched a digital publication, which is focused on thought leaders, people in the C-suite, people on boards, focuses on emerging technologies as well. But I'd like to add that on this platform, I've personally interviewed close to 500 people. There's more than 500 people listed on our platform, which includes Fortune 100 leaders. I've had several billionaires. I have a successful podcast, and also well over 200 CEOs from Silicon Valley and a couple dozen celebrities. So I'm not name dropping here and trying to brag about anything. I just want to let you know the work that I've done has put me in a position where I'm able to network with these types of people. So this is what's really excites me, is I know you're here for a good reason. ESA, I've known Cindy, John, and Anna for quite some time now, and it's a great company to work with, and I'm glad to partnership with them. But because you're here today, and I truly care about you and your success, I'm going to include a podcast and feature profile on our platform with your ESA membership. And I'm doing that completely free. And trust me, I charge $900 easily just for these two things. I do a whole lot of other services that I provide, but I want to let you know that this is free to you with your ESA membership. And again, I can tell you that branding does help. And I know a lot of you are looking to get on boards. This is one way that we can tackle this together. And really, that's it. I know I probably went over on time, but John, thanks for not cattle prodding me there.
You're welcome.
And I will I will leave it open to questions or turn it back over to John.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I really appreciated everybody who presented. We do have a few minutes. I certainly want to field any questions that you might have for PDA or Overton or Coruzant. I see one coming in from Rick. Let me just read that. I don't know if you see it, Bud. Do you see that like I do?
Yeah, I can read it to everybody, but will you share more specifically your perspective on the benefits and outcomes we can anticipate from membership in the PDA, both personally and in terms of our capacity to contribute effectively as board members? That's a great question. In terms of benefits, I listed several of them in my presentation. Just to reiterate, again, our focus is on good best practices in corporate governance. One of the things that we do is we work with companies about formation of boards, structuring of boards, working on board composition, and what that inevitably leads to our members being potential candidates to be on boards. And so we have the mechanisms of the posting process, the other platforms that we make available to our members that have board opportunities. We have the educational platform, which includes the certificate in private company governance, the ESOP course. We're about to launch a very good private equity course, and we're looking at several other courses as well. And the certificate program includes mentoring. In terms of outcomes, we are still working to really perfect the data we have on our 2,800 members. Filling out member profiles is so important. I will tell you, though, that we did a survey of the companies that did post with us late winter of this past year, and of those that completed their search process, they indicated almost half of their board positions went to PDA members. That's a data point. That's not, I wouldn't necessarily extrapolate that, but it does show you that those companies really appreciated the quality of the members that we had through the application process. And we do provide some guidance to our members about how and when and if to apply and on what basis, and also to the companies in terms of putting forward the descriptions. And the descriptions range. One of the interesting things is the diversity of our members helps, because companies are looking for diversity, both demographic and skill-based, especially in the private equity space now. And there are a range of skill requirements and geographic location requirements. And so if you're a member of PDA, you have access and to all of those and potential opportunities. And I think I will also say this, we have wonderful members and volunteers and volunteer leaders. We have 22 chapters that do in-person activities, and people really appreciate just the local connections they have with business leaders, entrepreneurs, owners, directors, and the ability to access those same leaders across the 22 chapters. So in the tech space, we have San Francisco Bay, Austin, Southern Florida, and Boston, and they represent a strong network in the tech space as an example. So I probably talked a little bit too long.
And if I could just add, this is Michael Dubois, if I could just add 30 seconds onto that. PDA, as Bud mentioned, does offer quite a bit in the way of both in-person and online benefits, whether it's through our education or chapters. And sometimes coming on as a member, that might be overwhelming with the amount of options that are available to you. So we've designed a personal approach where every member has one individual that is working with them throughout the journey of their membership as their personal advisor to help you navigate all of the options and availability that's available to you, to customize a very unique and specific journey through PDA as you better prepare yourself to serve as an effective director.
I see another question, John, if I could take this.
Yep.
Bud, how different are the competency requirements for public versus private board members? I know Mike will be able to comment on this a little bit because he worked for other organizations that had spent a lot more time. I will tell you that one of the big differences is there is a lot more regulatory requirements associated being on a public board. Private boards have certain requirements relating more to accounting. But I also will say this, there's competencies can be enumerated in different ways. And the competency that's required to work with a family-owned business and the dynamics of a family-owned business are very different then the competencies that are required for working with a public company that has a lot of structure, history, and requirements about it, and of course, a lot deeper resources. When you're involved with a private company and a family-owned business, you are very much of an entrepreneur in a sense when you're on the board, and oftentimes you're a path breaker. We have a number of companies that we work with who do not have outside boards bolster the platform I talked about. They did a survey of their companies. These are VC and private equity backed. Less than a third had independent directors. And so that in itself tells you something about what kind of competencies are required to be involved with a private company. Hope that helps answer that question a little bit.
That's great, Bud. Thank you. Any other questions for PDA or Overton or Brian? Anything you want to throw out? Okay, going once, going twice. Okay. Well, then we'll move to closing remarks. You'll have to hear from me just one more time. I'm going to share my screen once again and show really something that I showed earlier, right? And for those that joined late where you didn't see this, but I do want to just kind of bring it together a little bit and call out a few things. So certainly you want to highlight again that we're kind of building this kind of one-stop shop of sorts, which allows options wherever your passions and interests lie, whatever journey, whether that's I really want to be on a public board or private, or I really have a passion around startups. I want to get my feet wet. I really want to jump in and position myself for that next public board of directors position. So just we're really trying to kind of build a mosaic, so to speak, so you can kind of maneuver what's, in a way that's important to you. So I want to call that out. Secondly, if you look at the fourth bullet, talking about what Cindy and Ann and I have talked about is offering some exclusive sessions that really, and we're working on details around this, but really provide opportunities to talk in more of a safe space amongst your peers, bringing in experts in the board space about, could be these topics, right? It could be, public board service, finding the right board, venture capital education. Carrie talked about that. So maybe educational series, maybe just some topics for an hour, just open dialogue to learn from each other, learn from experts. And you will note the cybersecurity piece there as well. I think I mentioned this before, but we have a great relationship with Israel Martinez. He spoke as a thought leader months ago, and he's a cyber advisor to the White House. And we're working with him to kind of finalize, what this might look like from an education standpoint. You can get pretty deep here, right? Or even some type of a certification. So we just see there's power in these discussions and having these dialogues around these types of topics, which we are going to be fleshing out. And then looking certainly at future access to maybe some board resume writing resources and other things that help strengthen who you are and the impact that you can have on these boards. So I just want to kind of bring that home a little bit. So expect more details, more to come. This is an offering, and I'll repeat, that's really going to be offered in January. So again, expect more information. There would be, with this membership, under this umbrella, a membership fee. The amount has not been finalized yet, since some of the pieces are still a bit work in progress, and we're fine tuning some things, but more information will come by the end of the month, if not early January. So expect to see that as well. And then, as I promised early as we started this, you'll get a recording of this. You'll get a PDF version of the presentations. So expect that here within the next day or so. Anna, anything that I've missed, I should have highlighted?
No, I think you did a great summary. Do we have any questions now that we've summarized? You guys are being mighty quiet today.
Well, if not, we just really appreciate each of you. We thank you for your time. We hope you have a great holiday and expect more information to come. So all the best to each of you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you.